We're going to talk about how to take an innovative app idea from concept to reality. There's so much to be said here. We're going to jump right in so we save all the time possible. I want to thank two organizations here for making this possible today. Inventors Association of St. Louis, which provides resources and support for inventors in the St. Louis area, and Venture Cafe, great organization of individuals who provide programs, spaces, and events that bring people together to inspire each other and collaborate. Wonderful place for entrepreneurs, startups, inventors to gather, whether online or virtually or in person when it permits. Great organizations. All right, before we get started, it's really important that we have some housekeeping to do here. This presentation is not meant to be a substitute for legal or business advice or assistance. The information provided herein, both in print and orally, is presented by a twice patented inventor regarding her own experiences with the patent and startup processes, and as well as business, startup and business processes too, and is not necessarily typical. Always seek the advice of qualified legal and business professionals before proceeding with any legal or business applications, documents, or other such actions. In addition, the listing of service providers that may occur in this presentation and throughout the oral presentation as well is not meant to be an endorsement of any entity, nor is there any compensation being made to the presenter by the listed providers. Always do your own due diligence prior to seeking and securing the advice and services of such providers. Before we begin, it's important to note that you don't have to take any notes, so sit back and relax. Presentation will be available via YouTube later. Kindly, if you will, because of time constraints, retain questions that you might have until after the presentation because of the time factor. And please, I do want the questions just at the end if you'll be so patient. And after the conclusion of the presentation, please direct those questions via the camera instead of chat, if you will. And I thank you in advance for following these directives. All right, how did it all begin? Well, yours truly here is a St. Louis educator for almost 20 years. For most of that time, I taught middle school. Students were coming to me as late as 8th grade, not able to read and focus and read successfully, sometimes not at all. I created a solution one day when a situation presented itself on the fly, literally. It was off the cuff, off the wing, whatever you want to call it. And I had a manila folder that I had to was going to recycle. And one student had a problem. She couldn't focus and read that day. And she owned up to it right away and mentioned, Mrs. Brennan, I cannot focus and read and know what I've read. And I said, well, let's see what we can do with that. So with this recycled manila folder, I had it on my desk and I cut it just like you see it on the diagram here, with closed sides on all 4 of the open window there. She took it, used it, was able to focus and read 2 pages and knew what she read, answered questions correctly, and we were both very pleased with the result. She said, can I take this to my next class? Well, that became the first prototype. Then we added features to it, and those features were the introduction of different colors to read through, colored filter, colored card. This tool was a handheld device, and it was the precursor for the app we're going to talk about later. So after we added these features, in order to bring it to market, I quickly saw that I was going to have to become an entrepreneur and bring it to market myself. That was successful. In the process, I became members of Illinois Innovators and Inventors and Inventors Association of St. Louis. And those connections helped me bring my invention forward. The first tool, the handheld physical tool, was patented. And several years later, we created the app as an offshoot or an extension of the handheld tool. There are specific readers' needs that I was trying to meet at the time, And they were struggling with, these 8th graders were struggling with the need for more focus and tracking support. They couldn't stay on task. They would deviate off the page. They would be distracted by other media on the page, pictures, you name it. They needed to have some kind of sustained attention and engagement in order to read well and understand what they read and retain it. They also needed better comprehension. They needed improved retention. They needed to retain what they read so that they could explain it and use it, apply it later. They needed less text and media overwhelm. They were just overwhelmed by too much text, too many pictures, distractions. So these are the reasons why I needed to do something. And 8th grade is the last stopping off point before high school, you know, and it was that way or no way. The purpose of the tools then is to help improve literacy, both in my students and my school. Then it spread to the region and then to our nation, and now it is actually sold around the world. Here is the first iteration of the idea, the handheld reading tool. It's called the Reading Focus Cards, and as you can see, this is applicable to a variety of ways for use. See the large picture on the right, you see the 3 different applications below on the left. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I'm going to go quickly for your benefit. It's not meant to be a marketing tool here. Then the second iteration of the idea several years later, tell you how later in a little bit here with a timeline, this became a desktop app. This was an extension of the handheld, only even more customizable and able to adjust to individual needs. Why was this app different? It's innovative in a way that has been a real puzzle for some developers. And what does it do? It isolates selected text, and it's selected by the reader. Selected text line or lines, a whole paragraph or one word, as much or as little as you want, on a screen. It blocks out selected surrounding text. Here's the special part of this. This virtual card floats on top and stays on top of underlying applications. It's customizable to the needs of the individual reader. Color can be changed, any color of the rainbow or shade. Size of the card, size of the reading filter, transparency, orientation, you name it. You can change it on this virtual reading focus card app. It works online or offline. You can combine it. This is very cool. You can combine it with a Kindle desktop app and read any ebook that Amazon can present to you. Works with Macs and PCs, and there's a version for each. And it essentially is an overlay productivity desktop app. All right, things to keep in mind. First of all, this was created by an educator who also had to become an entrepreneur in order to bring all of this to market. We call these individuals edupreneurs, relatively new term. Also keep in mind that there was some evidence-based studies done prior to moving forward with all of this. I didn't feel comfortable just jumping in and willy-nilly devising something that would help, what I thought would help people. I needed proof first. It was privately funded by yours truly. And so because of that, we only moved forward when we had funds to do so. So you can imagine the speed or lack thereof with which this was developed. Made in the USA, very proud of that, and St. Louis for the most part, for the handheld tool. And the app is in the US. We did not go outside the country. It was in the US, and we'll talk about that developer in a little bit here. My first steps were to join an Inventor organization called Illinois Innovators and Inventors. It's based in Edwardsville, Illinois, and they're currently having online meetings once a month. You can go to the website. I have a clickable link here. Later on, you can check on that when it's on YouTube, not a problem. I also conducted preliminary patent and product searches on my own. At the time, I wasn't very, USPTO, the U.S. Trademark and Patent and Trademark Office, it wasn't, their website was not as user-friendly as it is today. And I limped along doing patent searches, and I went only so far, and I couldn't feel like I was doing an exhaustive search, and eventually I sought the assistance of an attorney. I also joined other networking groups and organizations. One of them was IASL, Inventors Association of St. Louis, that's sponsoring this program. Also, I-10, and there are so many more. I could give you a list of them. I-10 is here in St. Louis, and it is a catalyst for tech innovation that provides programs for rapid development of scalable tech ventures, engaging experienced entrepreneurs to help others build successful growing companies. And then I began investigating local resources for my tools, both digital and handheld, physical. All right. First up, after you do a patent search to see if there's anything out there like your idea, you need to figure out, okay, do I need some kind of IP protection? I'm always going to say yes. That's how I feel comfortable. But I'm not an attorney. I defer to an attorney for information along that line. I don't advise you doing this without one, although some individuals do that. But I was needing the advice of one to first determine what kind of IP, if any, protection I needed. Copyright only, a utility patent, something else, trademark, something else. Well, the patent attorney advised a utility patent at the time. I cannot say if you have an innovative app idea, what would be best for you. And of course, it's so important to always consult a legal professional before deciding on the appropriate IP protection for your idea. Here's a timeline for my IP protection of the Reading Focus Cards tools, both of them. And I divided it in half here, the handheld and the virtual, digital version. 2006, I engaged an IP attorney. And I must tell you right up front, 5 individuals were interviewed before I sought one out. 2 of them made interesting errors in our exchange, and one of them was one I thought that would fit best with my idea and my personality. An exhaustive search then was conducted by that attorney in that 2006 year, and a patent application was filed that same year, very late, December. That was just for the handheld Reading Focus Card. Notice the time between the filing and the issue of the patent, and there are no guarantees. It may not be issued at all. There might be problems with it, what have you, insurmountable problems that can't be fixed. Mine were, I didn't really have an office action. It was a very rare occurrence, but that speaks to the attorney for that. 2009, it was issued. Then, the same year, and there's like 90 days where you have a window of one patent being issued and a related extension of the patent can be filed as well. So within the 90-day period of that first issue of the patent, an app patent was filed. 2009, notice, and we call that a continuation in part of the original idea, CIP application. That was when the digital Reading Focus Card app idea was patent pending. Once it was filed, it became patent pending. Then notice 4 years. Software, digital applications usually take about 4 years. They're getting a little faster. The patent office has hired some additional experienced experts for examiners, and they're getting a little better. So it may be a shorter period of time for you if this is the route you go. But know that it's not something for people who had infinite patience. Okay, for you, what do you do about finding an app developer? What options do you have? Well, you can find an app developer company, and I'll tell you shortly how you can do that. Notice the expenditure that that might involve. You can find an independent freelancer, local or outside of the Midwest, and that's considerably less. Or you can be the one to develop it. If you have programming or coding background, wow, you're way ahead of the game. If you just know a little bit about coding and programming, you'll understand the language used by a developer, and that will help tremendously. I know I'm an inventor right now who is learning to code, and he's going to create his own applications. My hat is off to him. It's a challenge to learn different kinds of coding language, but he is doing it. He's determined. I'm thinking of his success right now. So my story in finding a developer was very interesting and multifaceted. I had heard advice from my inventor groups to contact my university. I was a graduate of the University of Missouri St. Louis, UMSL, and so I did contact my university. And they had an entrepreneurship department there, and they connected me with someone on the faculty at the time who was not only a professor, but also a clinical psychologist who understood reading challenges. That was very important. In addition, this individual also was a hobbyist on the side, and lo and behold, he created apps, mostly for drug prevention, programs for kids and teens on how to avoid drug use and drug abuse. I thought this individual would be perfect for what I wanted to do. I needed a coder, programmer, and an understanding individual who understood what it meant to struggle to read. And he helped struggling readers too as a psychologist in an organization. We signed an agreement. We agreed on an agreement, signed it. I had to seek out the help of a licensing and agreement attorney at the time, a separate one from the IP attorney. And we agreed, and he signed it, I signed it, and I exhausted the professor's talents and abilities. He used live code. Anyone knows live code? It's used in academia mostly. He did everything he knew to do to create my app, but couldn't finish it. And I thought we were dead in the water. Not so, and I'll pick that up in a minute. But in the process, if you're trying to find an app developer, there are some things you can do in and outside of the US, in and outside of St. Louis. One is seek out top app developers in St. Louis through Clutch. Another one is freelance.com. That's everywhere. And then there's a top US-based mobile app development company website. It's like a directory, goodfirms.com. You can take a look at that and search for individuals that might be able to help you or companies. Women Hack is one for women only, although I do see gentlemen attend some of these events. You'd have to check on that. These are local events in person or now online too. And you can find individuals who can help you create an app to your specifications. Please keep in mind that this is a listing of providers, and it's not an endorsement. I'm not receiving any compensation. Do your own due diligence before proceeding. Another way to find an app developer is word of mouth recommendations. They're some of the best. If you know someone who's had a successful app launch and they used a particular individual or company, find out what that is all about. There are some non-US based developers. Do a Google search, but be careful. Again, due diligence is always important. This company, Vrinsoft, is one that will create mobile apps. It's based in India, but they have phone numbers that are in the US, in the UK, and Australia as well. There's your website. It should be a clickable link for you to access that information. Word of mouth referrals that are local especially are good, I think. and then others too. Make sure that you screen with the Better Business Bureau for those in the US, but also reviews and testimonials that are credible. That would be a way to also tackle this. All right, back to my timeline. When I had my UMSL professor do all he knew to do in order to get my app up and running, he had a problem tweaking some issues out of the app. And I didn't know quite where to go. And I had some connections on Facebook of all places. And I found someone whom I had been communicating with more than a year or two, who had created special needs apps, especially for dyslexia. And I contacted him, and he knew what I was trying to achieve because he had a family member with dyslexia. And he was all about this. In addition, I learned that this person had created the Open Dyslexic font. I knew I needed this app developer to do and complete my app development. So, successfully, he did know live code, thankfully, and he did take on the completion of this app successfully, enough to have it uploaded to the Mac App Store for the Apple desktop app, for the Apple desktops and laptops, but also in the Windows Store, the Microsoft version for PCs, but also in Gumroad.com. And we have more success on this now. In 2018, he made the Windows 10 version of this app. He converted the live code to a .NET framework, which was much more malleable going forward with other updates. And 2019, 2020, additional updates for the Windows 10 version. What's next? Well, we're contacting publishers even now, online courses, course publishers, ebook publishers, other digital media publishers, to see if they are interested in using this app with their materials. Also, we're wanting to connect more with colleges, universities, and other institutions, particularly now with online education mushrooming as a result of the pandemic. Something we want to do very soon is update the Mac version. It's still in live code. Ongoing updates for Windows 10 version will be, more than mandatory. But more importantly than anything, we're monitoring opportunities for mobile technology applications going forward. Right now, the hardware in mobile tech cannot support this particular app. With this app on a desktop, you can have 20 tabs open and you can hop from one to the other using this tool. Mobile can't support that, unfortunately, but we're monitoring it. Marketing your app. This is most interesting, and don't lose heart, okay? For app promotion, marketing budget, be prepared to invest approximately 2 to 3 times the amount you invested for the actual app development that you spent. However, the cost of marketing a mobile app, 2017, is at least 10,000, is necessary to plan an app go-to marketing strategy. And what's involved in all of that? Let's find out. There are 3 stages: pre-launch, launch, post-launch. I don't want to oversimplify or seem to simplify it. It's each level, each stage is involved, as you can guess. These are some of the breakdown expenses of a marketing campaign for a new app. Very expensive, especially those things in the first column. I'm not going to go into details on this because it'll take more time than we wish to spend, but it's important that you know up front that it's expensive, okay? And I was warned this early on. I did my best with it. I did not invest this amount. All right. What do you do when you have a small or very low budget for marketing? It's a do-it-yourself application. Connect with tech bloggers, experts, and influencers. Influencers are individuals who are noticing trends and speaking to those trends and publishing articles about those trends. Connect with them. They are movers and shakers in the digital world. Write or send press releases to tech magazines, websites, etc. A lot of these used to be where you make one press release and send it to a multitude of individuals or entities. Now, each entity has its own online submission form. So you can't just copy, paste. It gets a little bit more grueling, but it can be done. Engage with your niche community via Facebook, Instagram, what have you. Connect with them. And when they ask a question, answer it right away to the best of your ability. And if you don't know the answer, say, I will find out and get back with you. Create a microsite of your own with all the app info, links, etc. Make it short, 2 to 3 pages, no more. There's a growing need for one-page websites. You gotta be aware of, simplicity is the best method. Crowdfunding. GoFundMe, Fund-A-Geek, there are others, but be cautioned about this. Some of them have no respect for intellectual property. Once it's out there, it's out there. If you tell someone something in a video or anything digital, it's there in perpetuity, most likely, and it's important that your idea not be stolen, not be confiscated by someone else who hasn't a conscience like you do. So be aware. I find GoFundMe is more respectful than some others. I don't want to mention any negative comments about any crowdfunding resources, so just keep that in mind. There are grants, invention competition awards, and other sources that can help fund this marketing and other aspects of your app development. Be aware, and they're right here in St. Louis. All right, this is your bonus information for staying with me all this time. Thank you. There is a grant program here in St. Louis, and I have participated in it not just once, but twice for 2 different innovative ideas. It's managed by, it's called SLU Start I-Corp Grant Program. It's managed by Research Innovation Group in SLU's Office of the Vice President for Research. And not only, it started out to be just for SLU researchers, but it's now available to the community of inventors and innovators here in St. Louis and in the region. And it helps to develop an innovative idea with a little bit of funding to start. And it's a free program. There's no cost for participating. You fill out an online form, you submit it online. All the sessions are currently online because of the pandemic. I participated as late as February in person. Once March came along, things went to an online version of participation. So $2,000 without paying any fees up front is a wonderful boon for innovators and inventors. It is specific to certain expenses. I have to mention that up front. You can't just use it on anything you choose. It's about customer discovery and finding out what customers think about your idea. You would have to talk about it in vague terms because you may not have any IP protection in place as yet, so be aware of that. But this is a portal to the National Science Foundation's national funding site. So once you finish SLU Start I-Corp grant program successfully, you are allowed to go on for more funding through the NSF. If you're interested, if you can, again, participate online. If this has all been in-person programs, but recently has been converted to online digital sessions. So you can seek out links here at a later date through YouTube and find out just what is happening on this. It's a wonderful program. Can't can't emphasize that enough. Mr. Malcolm Towns is in charge of this. It is also available to anyone who applies. You would have to be accepted. Your application would have to be accepted, and you would be notified via email. I want to mention the Inventors Association of St. Louis provides resources and support for inventors. Go to inventstl.org, and believe it or not, membership is free. The website is a great resource. The inventors and board members can help you find what you need, and I can't say enough about it. Also, coming up are classes at the St. Louis Community College for Inventors and Entrepreneurs, sponsored by board members of the IASL and St. Charles Community College. And of course, IASL and Venture Cafe will be collaborating for future online sessions that will be free. So stay tuned and keep learning. That's the name of the game. Thank you.